Well, hey, it's Lady D. I hope everyone is well. Well, today I went to my very first domestic violence awareness walk. Now, let me tell you what that is. Every time in the state of North Carolina, and definitely in the city in which I live in, another person is taken away from us due to domestic violence or a domestic violence situation or relationship, they have a walk. And so today I made up in my mind I was going to go to this walk. And when I went to this walk, being my very first time, I did not know what to expect. I just knew that I had to be there. I couldn't miss this, because someone's life depended on me standing up against domestic violence. And it was very heartfelt, and it was very touching and very moving. There's a young lady who was taken away from us by the hands of an abuser. This young lady right here. I went to this young lady's candlelight vigil about a week or so ago, myself and my husband. And it was very moving and it was very touching, and that was my first time ever going to one. That young lady stirred something up in me that I realize now I have to stand up for the women, children, and sometimes even men who are in a violent relationship. And yes, we don't hear a lot about it, but there are men who are being abused by their intimate partner, which sometimes, unfortunately, it is a woman. But this young lady here, Alexi Mayfield, stirred something in me. And I realized that I am her. I am her. I was just blessed and fortunate enough to get out of my situation with my life and eventually with my sanity. And why do I say eventually with my sanity? I say that because when I left my ex-husband back in 2004, I went into hiding. He found me. He stalked me. And he still abused me at every turn, every chance he could get. I went into hiding again, this time not letting anyone know where I lived. I looked over my shoulder constantly and continuously. And excuse the noise in the background, I have some work going on. But I knew that I needed to hide because my life depended on it. And even when I left the state of New York and I moved to the state of North Carolina, I knew even then that, excuse me, I'm picking with my hair. I knew even then that I still had to remain in hiding. You see, what many people don't understand and many people don't realize is that a lot of people, a lot of women who are in abusive relationships, they get out physically. But mentally a lot of times, emotionally a lot of times, psychologically a lot of times, they are still trapped. They are still in the throes and the cycle of abuse. And because I know what that feels like, I know what it feels like to be out of a relationship physically, but still be mentally tormented by the things that I endured. I understand the plight that many women go through. And so I was fortunate enough to get out of the state of New York that I lived in. I was fortunate enough to dissolve that marriage with the help of a wonderful lawyer who used their work address, their business address, as my home address because I was in hiding. I was fortunate enough to meet a wonderful man in 2006 who made me his wife in 2009. But even when I first met him, I was still in the throes of abuse because emotionally and mentally and psychologically, I was still trapped. But glory to God, I have taken back my freedom. I'm no longer afraid of what my ex-husband would do to me. I don't hide when I go back to my hometown to visit. I am free. You see, what many people don't realize is I am Lexi. I've dealt with the throes of abuse. I've dealt with the psychological torture that comes along with it. God set me free. And many of his wonderful, beautiful women may not have been as fortunate as I was to be able to get out of these relationships. So I thank God today for prompting me to go on this walk. I think God knew no matter what, I was not going to miss it. I was going one way or another. So don't think that abuse is an individual problem or family problem. It's time that we realize domestic violence is society's problem. Because someone you know, someone you may have known, someone you work with just might be in that situation and they may need you. This is Lady D, Dawn Evans. I am a survivor of domestic violence. And until I take my last breath, I have vowed to stand up to domestic violence, to stand up for the victims who suffer for domestic violence, to stand up and say domestic violence has to stop. And we won't quit fighting until we eradicate it. This is Lady D. Have a blessed, wonderful, and violent-free day. God bless.